You all fought with him that night.
Fuck you, AB!
You screamed at him.
Ah!
You threatened him.
Your fucking mouth shut.
I am going to kill him.
And then one of you did.
The series begins with the murder of the White House's chief usher, A.B. Winter. The present-day narrative unfolds during a Senate hearing, where Jasmine Haney, who was the assistant usher at the time, recounts how she first found out about Winter's death. She'd been told there'd been an incident. We also learn that Jasmine was next in line to become chief usher, expecting to take over after Winter's retirement. But earlier that night, she found out Winter had no intention of stepping down. She's then ordered to inform the staff about the incident but to make sure no one goes near the crime scene. Meanwhile, the president's close friend and chief advisor, Harry Hollinger, tries to sweep the case under the rug. He wants it labeled as a suicide, because a critical state dinner with Australian guests is underway. This is when we meet the star of the show, consulting detective Cordelia Cupp. She's widely regarded as one of the best detectives in the world, brilliant, curious, and with a strange soft spot for birdwatching. Yes, even in the middle of a murder investigation, she's got her binoculars ready. We're also introduced to FBI Detective Edwin Park, who, at first, is frustrated by Cupp's methods, and especially by her obsession with birds and constant bird metaphors. Cupp arrives at the scene and immediately starts inspecting it, despite Hollinger's repeated, almost desperate attempts to shut things down. She points out that Winter's death doesn't look like a suicide at all. His wrists are slit, but unnaturally. The blood on his shirt? It's likely not his. And there are cuts on his face. She suspects poisoning. Brushing off Hollinger's constant interruptions, Cupp asks for a tour of the White House. Jasmine shows her around, all the rooms, exits, and entrances, while estimating that over 100 people were present that night. When they reach Winter's office, they find Hollinger already there, rummaging through documents. He claims he's looking for sensitive documents. But in the Senate hearing, someone points out how absurd it is for an usher to even have sensitive political documents. Cupp then finds a bloody tissue in the trash can of Winter's office. Naturally, she wants to interview everyone inside the White House. But officials push back, foreign representatives are still inside. That's when Lily Schumacher, the social secretary, shows up. She tells them the guests already know about the incident, and they're ready to leave. Soon after, the Australian representatives start acting suspicious. One of them demands to leave. And that's when Cupp, looking through her birdwatching binoculars, notices something disturbing. One of them is wearing A.B. Winter's shirt. And that's where episode 1 ends. In episode 2, Detective Cordelia Cupp interviews the Australian state representative, David Rylance, and asks about him wearing Winter's shirt. David admits he got it after getting a bloody nose while having sex with the chef, Marvella, outside the White House. He explains that A.B. Winter was the one who pointed out the bloodstain on his shirt when he ran into him. He helped clean him up, and even swapped shirts with him. We also learn that Marvella had earlier threatened to kill Winter in annoyance, after he refused to include a flambé dish to be served at the state dinner. David further recalls Winter cryptically telling him, "I am going to be dead by the end of the night." Cordelia, being as sharp as ever, strikes a deal. She'll keep David's scandalous secret if he can sway the US president's decision, and allow her to interview everyone present at the White House. Once the interviews begin, the dirt starts surfacing. A carpenter mentions how Winter had been yelling earlier that day, threatening to reveal the truth to someone. He also mentions seeing Harry Hollinger leaving the music performance, and walking past Winter's office. Suspicious, to say the least. Through other interviews, we discover the tangled mess of relationships, how much Tripp, the president's brother, hates his brother, the president. How the first gentleman's mother despises her son's husband, President Perry. And how utterly chaotic the state dinner had been, with issues ranging from food problems to last-minute cancellations. Cordelia then finds that the last call made to Winter's office had come from the room used by the grounds crew, particularly, the gardener, Emily. Investigating, she finds a piece of broken glass there, and something just clicks. Cordelia requests that Winter's body be taken out through the front entrance, not the back. She wants everyone gathered in one place, their reactions laid bare. She states that it'll help them pick the weak or odd bird out of 1,000. What follows is a quick sequence of revelations. She spots the pastry chef, a blue stain on his shirt. She suspects it could be from him being in the blue room at the time of the murder. In episode 3 of The Residence, It begins with pastry chef Didier cleaning his knife, stained with blood, and disposing of it, along with a cloth, in the incinerator. Naturally, FBI agent Edwin immediately suspects Didier. But Cordelia, true to form, uses yet another bird analogy to remind him that sometimes, things aren't what they appear to be. As the investigation continues, more interviews reveal what an absolute mess the entire state dinner had been. We learn that Lily Schumacher, the social secretary, decided to replace Didier's iconic Christmas gingerbread house with a wellness showcase, much to Didier's dismay. Despite being the protector of the staff, Winter did nothing to oppose the decision. Later, during the dinner, Didier wanted to showcase his desserts with a cheeky kangaroo on top, but Winter, once again, shut his idea down. Since Winter repeatedly failed to protect Didier's creative contributions, the detectives considered that Didier might have had a motive for revenge. To make matters worse, a gingerbread man resembling Winter had a knife stuck in him. This implicates Didier further. Meanwhile, Sheila, one of the staff, mentions seeing Didier heading toward the basement. The detectives soon discover that Didier tried to toss evidence, his knife and the cloth, into the incinerator, unaware that it doesn't actually work. Finally, Didier breaks his silence. He explains that he has an office on the 3rd floor, where he keeps his expensive knives so nobody can take them. When he went up to the game room, he discovered Winter's body, with one of his knives beside it. Didier panicked. Fearing suspicion, he took the knife, cleaned it, and tried to dispose of it. The scene then shifts focus to the gardening staff, as the call to Winter had been traced to the room used by the garden employees. Earlier, she had asked the chief gardener about a leaf she found in Winter's room. The gardener leads her to a nearby tree, where the leaf was from, and while searching, Cordelia notices a smoked cigarette lying on the ground. The two detectives confront Sheila, one of the butlers, who at first denies being a smoker, but later admits the cigarette is hers. The episode ends ominously, with someone sticking a knife into the gingerbread figure of Winter. In episode 4 of The Residence, we open with Cordelia taking her nephew on a birding trip. However, he quickly loses interest when they struggle to spot a bird. She recalls how his mother once lost her favorite sock, and how Cordelia's obsessive, persistent nature helped retrieve it. It had been taken by the neighbor's dog during a visit. The focus then shifts to Sheila, the butler. Several staff members describe her as a heavy drinker, though Sheila herself tries to present a different narrative. She tells Cordelia that she had a shot of vodka in the game room before delivering the bottle to Mrs. Cox, the president's mother-in-law. We then learn that Sheila went upstairs to deliver a bottle of vodka to Mrs. Cox but, instead, drank the entire bottle herself, alone in the game room. That's why a glass was found there. Later, she fetched another bottle but never delivered it, as by then, Jasmine had warned her to stay off the 3rd floor after Winter's body had been discovered. Cordelia, carefully piecing together Sheila's fragmented and evasive story, finally lays it all out, making it clear that Sheila can no longer lie. Sheila admits that, after leaving the game room heavily drunk, she saw someone else on the 3rd floor, but couldn't identify them. She also reveals that while smoking near a tree, which explains the leaf Cordelia found inside the game room, she saw someone, other than the Australian representative and the chef, enter the garden supply room. Meanwhile, Cordelia and Edwin receive preliminary autopsy results. It's confirmed that Winter died after being struck on the head with a heavy object, and had already been dead for at least 30 minutes before being found. Interestingly, his wrists had been cut post-mortem, and traces of poison were also detected in his system. Cordelia, convinced that Winter's body was moved, continues her investigation. While inspecting the 3rd floor, she comes across a room supposedly undergoing renovation. She notices fresh paint and decides to scrape the walls, only to find dried blood stains underneath. The episode ends on this chilling discovery. In episode 5 of The Residence, the story opens with a boy approaching Cordelia across the White House grounds. He reveals that he saw a blinking red light coming from the renovation room, room 301, around the time Winter was murdered. Cordelia soon uncovers that Tripp had been a major nuisance inside the White House, placed there by his brother, the president, due to his multiple scandals. On the night of the state dinner, Tripp wasn't allowed to attend and took out his frustration on Winter. Additionally, there had been ongoing tension between the two, as Tripp had stolen and hoarded White House artifacts in his room, irritating Winter even further. Cordelia also discovers that 2 uninvited guests had made it into the dinner. A clear sign that security had been compromised. Through Jasmine, Cordelia learns more about the strained relationship between Winter and Harry. Apparently, Winter had overheard Harry and other executives discussing sensitive diplomatic matters. Even though staff were trained not to listen in on such conversations, Harry accused Winter of spying. Despite Winter's firm denial, insisting he hadn't heard anything, Harry's reaction had been unusually aggressive. In episode 6 of The Residence, the scene opens at the Senate. Harry is going ballistic as the hearing spirals out of control. He tries to pressure the Senate chairperson into smoothing things over. In a flashback to the night of the murder, Cordelia investigates the White House and discovers bloodstains in the Lincoln bedroom on the second floor. She then checks the nearby rooms, including the Yellow Oval Room. With Jasmine's help, they uncover a hidden staff staircase leading up to the third floor. The investigation soon reveals the existence of yet another uninvited guest at the state dinner, a mysterious figure they refer to as the Third Man. Cordelia traces his movements throughout the evening and learns that he was seated next to the Australian industrialist during the dinner. Back in the present, after the Senate hearing adjourns, the chairperson privately approaches Senator Bix, one of the fiercest critics of the current administration, and tries to convince her to drop the case. But Bix refuses. She presents her theory: the Australian industrialist, who had been seen speaking to Harry that night, hired the Third Man to kill Winter, after Winter accidentally overheard their conversation about political advancements. Senator Bix then makes a bold move. She publicly offers full immunity to the Third Man in exchange for the truth. Soon after, he arrives at the hearing and tries to bluff his way out. But Cordelia, watching the hearing from afar, sends specific questions to the judge through Edwin. Under pressure, the Third Man finally cracks. He confesses, he's just a salesperson who accidentally gained access to the White House after tagging along with the drunk Australian representatives. While wandering the halls looking for a bathroom, he witnessed someone dragging a body out of the Yellow Oval Room. The episode ends on that chilling note: a single witness, a critical sighting, and the mystery closing in fast. In episode 7 of The Residence, Cordelia and Edwin return to the White House to reopen the investigation. They've been given just 48 hours to figure out what really happened, or the case will be closed as a suicide. Immediately, Cordelia notices significant changes. The rooms all look different due to Lily's renovations. Jasmine is now acting as the new chief usher, stepping into Winter's old role. While revisiting Winter's office, Cordelia shows Jasmine a set of keys she found in Winter's pocket. Jasmine immediately recognizes them, not as Winter's, but suggests they might belong to Bruce, the White House's longtime engineer. Cordelia proceeds to interview Bruce. She shows him the keyring, and he confirms, the keys are his. From conversations with other staff, we learn that Bruce's dynamic with Winter was far from friendly. Bruce admits Winter never acknowledged his efforts, despite Bruce going to great lengths to redesign the house to meet the president's demanding standards. He often felt overlooked. During the interview, Bruce reveals that he was in the Yellow Oval Room on the night Winter died. He'd been checking the ceilings, concerned about potential clogging caused by Tripp's bizarre habit of flushing salt down the drains. Bruce also remembers seeing Lily that evening, and notes that she seemed particularly anxious. Later, the police chief updates Cordelia and Edwin about Lily's ambitious, borderline obsessive, plan to completely redesign the White House. In doing so, he brings up LCE. Everyone speaks fondly of LCE. She's described as one of the most beloved staff members in The Residence. In her interview, LCE opens up. She tells Cordelia about an argument she had with Winter. Winter had discovered her criminal past, something she had kept buried, and confronted her harshly. The confrontation escalated into a major fight. Devastated, LCE retreated into a closet, where she ran into Bruce. In the heat of the moment, she broke down and confided in him, saying she'd kill him. He left her in the closet, but returned a few minutes later to find LCE exiting the room, candlestick in hand, with Winter lying dead on the floor. But LCE's account is different. She says that when she stepped out of the closet, Winter was already dead. Panicked and unsure, she fled, grabbing the candlestick in fear, thinking Bruce might have done it. As Cordelia digs deeper, she uncovers a romantic connection between Bruce and LCE. The keyring found on Winter wasn't just any set of keys, it was a gift from LCE to Bruce. And it even matches a necklace Bruce had once given her. As the episode ends, Cordelia stands alone in the Yellow Oval Room. She's weighed every story, every shift in tone, every pause. Despite the matching testimonies, something still doesn't add up. One last piece is missing. And she's getting closer. In episode 8 of The Residence, Cordelia continues her analysis of the yellow oval room, revisiting every detail she had previously observed. She notices a vase is missing, and soon learns from the curator that a clock is also unaccounted for. After digging up an image of the missing clock, she suddenly recalls the chemically burnt roses she saw on the day of the incident. She consults the florist, who insists that no industrial pesticide strong enough to kill his flowers is ever used. Meanwhile, she continues her search for Winter's journal, and finds it in the library, his favorite place in the house. The diary is filled with numbers and scribbled notes that seem significant. As she flips through it, Cordelia realizes something strange: the positioning of the paintings in the yellow oval room has changed. And then, it clicks. She gathers all the staff members connected to Winter's death and begins explaining her findings. This time, she's certain, Winter wasn't killed in the game room. He was dragged there. The third man had seen it happen, someone pulling the body down the hallway. Cordelia had previously arranged to meet with Tripp, but faked being late just to observe him secretly. She watched as he nervously recounted the events of that night to someone else. It's revealed that Tripp had been drinking, alone, in room 301. He passed out in the corner, and when he woke up, he found Winter dead beside him. Panicked, Tripp dragged the body to the game room. On the way, he ran into Sheila, who was too drunk to recognize him. Trying to cover his tracks, Tripp painted over bloodstains, found a set of keys, slipped them into Winter's pocket, and stumbled upon a torn-out page, the suicide note. Realizing he might have messed up the suicide scene, he debated dragging Winter back to room 301, but feared getting caught. So instead, he staged a new suicide, using Didier's knife to slit Winter's wrists. Cordelia then suggests that the body was briefly moved to the Lincoln bedroom by whoever had first dragged him upstairs from the yellow oval room, explaining the bloodstain found there. She begins piecing together LCE and Bruce's stories, and notices inconsistencies. She reveals the presence of a hidden door, long sealed during renovations, and suggests that Bruce used it that night. When she asks who sealed the door, suspicion shifts to Jasmine, but Jasmine insists it was Elliot's order. Elliot, the president's husband, is stunned. He denies any involvement. And then, in a moment of silence, Lily confesses. She impersonated Elliot and gave the order herself. Tearfully, she admits that LCE and Bruce had moved the body, and that she orchestrated the concealment to protect them. She even redecorated the rooms afterward to erase the feel of what had happened. In the chaos, Edwin mutters a single word, blank. It's Lily's tell. She's been caught. Cordelia opens the hidden door, and there it is, the murder weapon. The missing clock. Now, the whole story unfolds. Lily had long despised the White House as an institution. She fired staff, made shady renovations, and, as Cordelia reveals, had been embezzling funds. Cordelia shows proof. Winter had discovered her schemes and documented them in his journal. Winter confronted Lily with the evidence. She tried to snatch the journal from him but only tore out one page, which she later crafted into a suicide note. She went to the garden room, took the poison, and invited Winter to meet, under the pretense of apologizing. She poisoned his drink. Winter, still trusting her, drank it. But when he realized what was happening, he dropped the remaining liquid onto the roses. Uncertain whether the dose was enough, Lily threw a vase at him. It scratched his face. Then she finished him off with the heavy clock, later hiding it between the rooms. LCE walked in, saw Winter's body, and fled. Bruce returned shortly after, assumed LCE had done it, and dragged the body to the third floor. With the case closed, Cordelia heads off to her next bird-watching session. Calm. Quiet. Ready for the next mystery to find her.